These two adorable snowman paintings were created using some of my favorite texture mediums. I also used a palette knife and various sizes and shapes of brushes. The pattern for each snowman is available on mugme.com, along with a full list of instructions and all of the materials that I used. And that link will be posted on the following screen. So pause the video and go to that website to download your patterns, and then follow the video for how to create these paintings. Okay, now I need to get these finished because I have an art show tomorrow that I want these to be ready for. And it's a Christmas bazaar. So I'm going to show you one of the painting patterns. I'll start with this one. My other snowman will go on the other canvas that's back there. Now, I made this 7 by 7 because he fits really nicely then inside of what I have going on here. Now you can take this pattern and enlarge it or shrink it to fit your size of canvas. Okay, I've tried a couple different methods for transferring my pattern onto the canvas, and I want to make it as easy for you as possible. Transferring using the carbon paper like this didn't work real well because this is a very rough texture. So what works better is just to lay down the snowman and then just draw around it. Make sure you have it down on a flat surface. I couldn't do it up on my easel. Now I have painted it so that you can see it a little bit better. Now another thing that you could do when you're creating this is you could leave this inner part here without the texture, and then you wouldn't have the trouble transferring the pattern. You could transfer the pattern before you lay down any texture, and then just only put the texture around the outside. I kind of like the texture all through it, but it does make it more difficult for transferring the pattern. Okay, now for the background, I'd like it to be kind of bright and cheerful, and cerulean blue is a nice color, so I'm going to use a lot of cerulean blue and white. I don't want it to be too dark, so it's going to be mostly white. And I have this nice little brush that is a scrumbler, and it lays down the paint really nicely. And I will mention some of the paints as I go along, but you can use whatever color choice you wish, of course. And also on the pattern itself, I give instructions, and I also mention all the paints. I list the paints on there that I happen to use. Now I think I already can tell that I like having the gesso down. I think it kind of helps the paint go down better. I haven't ever done that before. I've just put down my texture, my favorite mediums, and then put the paint down. But I think this works nicely, but we'll see over time if it really makes that much difference. Okay, now I have my base coat down. And I should mention, if you haven't watched my other videos, or if you haven't played around with this sort of thing yet, working with this texture is not the easiest thing, because you do need to get down in all those little grooves and things. And you could use a big roller and roll over the entire thing, the same kind of roller you would use on the outside of a house that has heavy texture like this, something with a lot of nap to it to get the paint down in there, and then come back and do further coats. There are various methods for covering this type of heavy texture. Working on a small space like this, I find that using either a stencil brush or a scrumbler like this works just fine. I just have to keep working at it and sometimes putting down more than one coat. So try different methods yourself. I may sometime try a large roller. I just didn't feel it was necessary with this small of a space, but you wouldn't want to work and work and work at it with a tiny little scrumbler like that if you had a large canvas. These are built up quite a bit because of the type of stencil that I used. It wasn't actually even a stencil. It was meant to be put on the top of a mason jar. You screw it on the top of the mason jar, and these were holes that then you can use to put utensils in or something like that. And as soon as I saw that, I thought, oh, that's what I want for my texture. So always keep an eye out for things at Home Depot or Lowe's or that type of place that you might be able to use for building texture. For my flowers, I'm using a small flat brush. This is a size 2 flat, and I'm using Naphthol Crimson for the petals. And I usually would add white for shading, but if I do that, I'll end up with pink, and I don't want that. So I'm just going to use the red. Now I may come back later and add a little bit of highlight or perhaps some Payne's Gray. That would add shadow. Payne's Gray is a really nice color for adding depth and shadow. Now, when I mentioned these little flowers before, I mentioned that it was made from the top of a mason jar, and this is what it looks like. You're supposed to put this on top of a mason jar, and then you can put things in it, like pencils or maybe stems that would have flowers on it, something decorative. But I thought it was perfect for this. You could also go to a craft store and purchase ready-made little items that are decorative and glue them on ahead of time. Or if you do polymer clay work, you can create your own. You don't even have to have anything like this. It's up to you. But I just thought that would be pretty. So don't worry if you can't find this exact thing. The idea is to just have something decorative in each corner. Okay, now to work on the hat, I would like a little bit of dimension to it. So I'm using 2 colors, vermilion orange and the same Naphthol red. And so I'll put one corner of my brush in one color, the other corner in the other color. That way I'll get a little bit of depth as I paint along. Both colors will go down. And again, it's a little bit difficult painting on this rough of a surface, but I think it'll be a nice effect. And I'm not bringing in any white because, like I said, I don't want to end up with pink. Now for shadow, I could bring in a little bit of a darker red, such as alizarin crimson, or ultramarine blue, which is what I did my outline with. It's a deeper blue, kind of a blue purple, or even some Payne's Gray. But right now I'll just get the basic paint down. Now to do this little center, instead of a flat brush, which has edges that would come up into the little petals, I'm going to use a round brush. This is a rounded brush, and I think that might work a little bit better. And I'm using a dry brush. I'm not getting it wet first like I normally would, because I just need a little dab in the center there. I can kind of dab that in there how I want. Now I'm using a smaller round brush to get this area out here. I'll paint each one of these little round circles that are on the outside of the flower. Now I'm going to come back and do his hat. This is a really nice little brush for getting in a couple of little areas that could be touched up. I could add a little bit of blue right to that spot. That's about it, but I don't want to put another color in here right now, so I'm going to just use the white. And for any shadows that I want in the fur, I have my Payne's Gray. I may add a little bit of that, but first I'm going to dab on just the white. Now I have just a tiny bit of Payne's Gray on my brush, because fur is not actually totally white, and neither is the snowman. but I want it to show up nicely. So it's mostly white, and then I have a little bit of Payne's Gray for just a bit of depth and shadow in there. Okay, since this is fading into the snowman himself so much, I'm going to make that more of a red fur. Okay, now I'm going to just add a bit of shading around the body, which requires a little bit of Payne's Gray. And I'm doing this while it's still wet, actually, but that way I can kind of add my dimension. Now I need to let that dry, and then I'll add his little arms, and then it's just a matter of detail work. Okay, now I don't usually use actual black, but I'm going to for his eyes and his mouth because I want it to show up. And this part is where you really kind of give character to the snowman. So much is in the eyes. And for this, I'm bringing in my brush with a little bit of black on it and a little bit of brown. Okay, I did just a few touch-ups here. I worked on this area a little bit to fix the scarf up so that it shows a little more dimension around here. And I went back and added the little fringes. I had forgotten that. And just a tiny bit of detail on the nose. But things like the little fringes, those are the little details that do kind of add a little something that I think helps, makes it look finished. Okay, here's the final. And I added just a little bit more to the fringe on his scarf. I thought that little detail was needed. And I touched up the scarf itself. I added a little bit of white highlights and things to kind of give it a little more nubby look. So you can see all the nice texture on there. And then I will show you the other one as well. I went ahead and made the other snowman. Okay, this is the second snowman, and I wanted you to see what he looks like as well. And he has the same fringe on the scarf. I used a different color scheme, but I wanted you to see what both of them look like, and both snowmen are included with the pattern. And the pattern is available on megme.com. And you can use this pattern for sewing applique or painting or any other type of craft project that you wish. Thank you for watching my video, and please remember to subscribe.